Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Waxonomy Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Altman. Thanks for tuning in. Now, today, I have a very special guest with me. He hails from Eastern Europe, and he's a good friend of mine from school. Please say hello to Kirill. Kirill, say hello to the folks at home.
Hi, folks at home.
Perfect.
How's quarantine going?
Quarantine sucks. I've been working from home, and I'm slowly slipping into insanity. I'm running out of things to cook, and I just feel lazy overall. But I started this podcast, so hopefully this will keep me busy. What about you? I know you're not really quarantining. You are a paramedic, so you're out there saving lives.
Yeah, somehow considered essential. I've been called an ambulance driver yesterday at Shaw's, so it's fine.
Perfect. Well, do people clap as you walk into different establishments?
No, but I did have an awkward moment yesterday at Shaw's. This woman just stood in the middle of the supermarket and started saying thank you for being out there and saving people. And I had my mask on, so she didn't see how I was blushing, which was good. But then I was like, at your service, ma'am.
No one cared who I was until I put on the mask.
Exactly.
Well, I know I like to make fun of you a lot, but I do appreciate that you're out there helping out people who are feeling sick, and it's a very frightening time for a lot of people. So, good on you for doing that. That being said, we're going to talk about something a little bit different because this is a music podcast. So you're a good friend of mine. We go way back a few years in college, and I'd like to think that when I first met you, your music choices were very different than what they are today. I remember your favorite artist was Eminem, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so this guy was an encyclopedia for Eminem. He knew all the lyrics, he knew all the albums, anything that he's ever recorded. It's pretty frightening, especially when he starts singing it, because, I've got this 6'2" Slavic man just yelling Eminem lyrics, so it's kind of a frightening combination. But
college was a weird time, my man.
Yeah, we all went through some shit. But I'd like to say that you've made quite the transition into a different style of music appreciation. And today we're going to talk about a very special band for both of us, Pink Floyd. Now, a little bit of backstory. I'd like to think that I introduced you to Pink Floyd a couple years ago. I remember I was sitting in the car with you, and I was like, yo, bro, check out this song. And I played for you Shine On You Crazy Diamond. And for those of you who aren't aware of the song, I hope you are. It's like a 12-minute song. It's very progressive. It's not. It takes a little bit of patience for the average listener. And unfortunately, you weren't too thrilled about it. Now, fast forward a couple months after you've made fun of me for showing you this song and calling it crap and boring, you started sending me songs by Pink Floyd, and that was the seed in which you grew into one of the biggest Pink Floyd fans I've ever met. So it's quite a phenomenon. I would love to hear more about your journey into appreciating Pink Floyd, what I might have done wrong when I tried to start your love for Pink Floyd. I don't know. The floor is yours. Give me your thought process.
I mean, I don't want to say you failed miserably, because there was a little bit of a spark of interest, but it wasn't enough for me to go look up the music and then add it to my own library. And I was still curious about Pink Floyd, especially after we went to the first laser show. If you remember, we actually went to the Wall laser show.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right after you showed me Shine On Crazy Diamond. I think the biggest issue of throwing somebody into the realm of Shine On You Crazy Diamond as their first song is how long it takes for the song to actually get somewhere. I got so used to thinking that the music is supposed to start in the first 7 seconds of the song. Like, that's where the banger happens.
Yeah, well, especially lyrics.
Yeah, but with Pink Floyd, the banger is the whole album.
That's very profound of you.
But you don't know that if you just listen to one song.
That's true.
And so you showed me "Shine on Your Crazy Diamond," and I thought, well, that was a really long opener for something that could be said in 3 words, but it really can't in almost the whole album.
Right.
So afterwards, I found this playlist on YouTube it was titled "The Greatest Songs of Pink Floyd" or "Pink Floyd Greatest Hits." The video unfortunately got taken down now because of copyright issues. But it really got me into Pink Floyd because he had a certain way of putting the songs together that kind of made sense for me. I don't know if it was the low attention span, because the whole, like the playlist on YouTube started actually from Astronomy the Mind, which is not that long of a song. Right. But it did spark a lot more interest in Pink Floyd compared to "Shine on Your Crazy Diamond." And that's how I came up with this idea of what tracks would I make somebody listen to, what tracks would I make somebody listen to who has never listened to Pink Floyd before. And I came up with the list that I have in front of me. I mean, hopefully somebody follows through it. It's still too long, but it has 13 songs, which I think should, in theory, or might just spark somebody's interest in the band as much as it did for me.
Okay. Now, do you want to start by giving your first song? Okay, yeah, let's do that. So why don't you tell me what your first song is for introducing the layman to Pink Floyd?
All right, the first song just has to be "Breathe" or "In the Air." It's from Dark Side of the Moon, first released in 1973 in the album, but it was recorded way prior to that because Pink Floyd used to actually play songs live before they recorded them in the studio, which is like not done nowadays. But basically, this song is a 3-minute song that's an absolute banger.
Yeah, I love this one. I love this song so much.
It's an amazing song to start from. But something to keep in mind as well when you listen to this song is that the album Dark Side of the Moon was also like the blessing in disguise from the band, because at that point they actually thought that they would not be able to top this album. Like, it's their magnum opus.
Right.
So when you start from such a magnum opus, you still have high hopes for what's next to come. And I hope the rest of the tracks deliver for you as much as they did for me.
Now, so I actually have a funny story about Dark Side of the Moon. So Dark Side of the Moon is actually the first thing I've ever listened to by Pink Floyd. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, for Hanukkah, I was given, my aunt sent me this album. She sent me a CD of Dark Side of the Moon, and I was like aware of the album artwork, and I'm like, oh, this is Pink Floyd. Like, I know they're famous and all. So I put in my CD player, and as you know, the first song is "Speak to Me," which is right before "Breathe in the Air." Now, "Speak to Me" takes a little bit of time before you kind of hear anything. So the album kind of starts off with a very faint heartbeat. Now, when I put it in the CD player, I didn't hear anything for like 30 seconds. And I was like, what the hell is wrong with this? Like, is there something wrong with the CD? And I ended up just turning it off because I thought there was something wrong with my CD player. little did I know, it was just like a really grand build up. Like it's, it takes like 30 seconds before you start to really hear anything. And then there's the scream that goes into Breathe in the Air.
Yeah.
I feel bad that I didn't give it more time, but do you think people should listen to Speak to Me before they listen to Breathe? Because like there is kind of like a stimulus that eases you into Breathe as opposed to starting right at Breathe. You know what I mean?
Yes. I definitely think people should listen to Speak to Me before they listen to Breathe.
Yeah, I mean
Mainly
it might as well
because,
just be one song if you really think about it.
yeah, mainly because, I mean, it's such a cool concept, right? The album was developed out of the three questions that they were asking to random people visiting them at Abbey Road Studio. One of
Mm-hmm.
the people they actually recorded was Paul McCartney's wife, but she never made the cut. And the guy who actually says, I've been mad for effing years, right? That guy is just a sound engineer because they
Right.
thought his voice had some kind of bravado that they added to the track list, and it's just a cool concept. I mean, again, when you're appreciating Pink Floyd, you gotta appreciate the whole album.
Right.
But if I were to narrow it down to like one song that you should start from, should be Dead Breathe, because it gives you a good outline of the band, of what they stand for. It's very progressive. It's kind of trippy. But overall, it's just a banger.
It, I I think it hits very smoothly. I the best way I could describe it is you were floating in space. It really just kind of has a very nice. It has a tranquil, moving quality to it. It's definitely not something that you would hear on the radio because it's just kind of it just kind of feels like a component of an album, but it totally could work just listening by itself. If you listen to Speak to Me into Breathe, it's a fantastic 3 minute trip. So I agree with you. I think that's a pretty good way to start off with Pink Floyd. It's a good introduction into their more progressive stuff, but it's not too overwhelming, which I think this is a good pick. All right, Kirill, what would you put as your next slot after someone listens to Breathe? What do they listen to next?
I think after somebody listens to Breathe, they will want to know where this whole sound started. And for me, I think the sound of Pink Floyd starts from Astronomy the Mine, which is the first song on Piper at the Gates of Dawn.
So that's their first album.
It has the first studio album, right? Before that, they actually put out the Relic album, which nobody listened to because it's all about underground stuff that they did for people tripping on acid.
Which is not
Found
what Pink
audience.
Floyd is all about.
No.
You could still be sober and listen to Pink Floyd. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
I couldn't agree more. But overall, I think Astronomy the Mine in itself is like a takeoff
Yeah.
in search of the Pink Floyd sound. It has the original member, Sid Barrett, who wasn't in the group for long, for better or worse. Some people may argue that Pink Floyd stopped being Pink Floyd after it left. I totally disagree with that. Artists grow. That's how they remain relevant. If there's no growth,
Yeah.
their music would have died in like 80s. But for somehow people 50 years after the release of the albums are still discussing it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't put a numbered list of songs that I would introduce people to, but I did include Astronomy Domine because I feel like it has a lot of qualities of traditional classic rock and roll. Like it has, your guitars that are nice and distorted. You got like heavy drum beats, but you still have that spacey, interstellar kind of theme to it where, it's not just it kind of deviates from traditional rock and roll, but it maintains a pretty good amount of those elements. Like obviously, further down the line, they start to remove a lot of the sounds of the mid to late '60s, and I'm sure you'll get into that. But this is definitely a good one where you really don't know anything about Pink Floyd, and you do like a lot of those traditional '60s rock bands. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Sense.
absolutely agree. I think it's one of the most important songs to listen to understand where they came from, what it was like, what Pink Floyd was like before they created the Dark Side of the Moon.
Right.
Their foundation, basically.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the music that they released, prior to releasing any studio albums, a lot of the music they released relied a lot on the visual effects. They were one of those bands that would put up a triple light show whenever they performed. Again, people were tripping on acid; they loved it, but it kind of gave birth to the sound, which transcends generations.
Right. Yeah, you can't go wrong. All right. What's your next track, Kirill?
My next track has to be Childhood's End. It's from Obscured by Clouds, released in 1972. It's an album released for a movie. That's why it's not really that well known as compared to other albums.
Right.
But I still think it's such a good song. Even if you look at it from the perspective of this playlist that I'm currently creating, Childhood's End, for me, symbolizes the end of Syd Barrett's influence. Because Syd Barrett, when he was producing Pink Floyd albums, it relied heavily on storytelling, he has a song, Gnome, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was about this fantastic creatures, and it was all this childish whimsicality that was creating the songs. But I think at one point, when Syd Barrett left, Pink Floyd had to grow up as a band. They had to become grown-ups, put their grown-up pants on, and release some next generation music. And I think that's exactly what they did.
Okay.
And I think Childhood's End has to be included in my playlist, at least.
Yeah, that's a good one. I in my list, I actually included Obscured by Clouds. So like the opening track to the album. I just really enjoyed that song. And it's good. It gives a lot of it's like an homage to the 70s rock. I don't think it's too obscure, which I hate the pun, but like it's definitely like sonically it's an easy way to listen to Pink Floyd. I still think that these are ways to ease into it. There's definitely more things that are experimental that I'll get into, but this is definitely a good album. I don't really think it's too challenging sonically. Would you agree with that sentiment?
I would agree. Up until the last song, it's fairly simple.
Yeah, like it's just it's just good stuff to listen to, whether you're driving or studying. I listen to this album a lot when I'm studying. It's definitely it's not too intense. It's pretty smooth through and through.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Especially the transition between the first and second song on that album is phenomenal. It's
Okay.
amazing.
All right. What are we at number 4?
We are, yes, number 4.
So do you actually want me to give you my top 4 songs? Oh, actually, sorry, no. I have 6 songs that I wrote that I think are essential to understanding Pink Floyd. But do you want to finish your list and I'll go with mine, or should we go slot for slot?
How about I reach the midpoint, which is song number 7, and after that you introduce me your playlist, and we can come back to mine afterwards.
Okay.
Just so I don't overload anybody with the amount of information.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. All right. Give me what's your number 4 pick? Your draft pick.
All right. Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2. This is from The Wall, released in 1979. In my opinion, I know there's a lot of hate surrounding the Wall. People tend to have very divisive opinions about that. They either love the album or they absolutely hate it because, oh my God, it's not Pink Floyd anymore. They're releasing the musical. But if you listen just to this song, right, and just take a moment to appreciate Gilmour's guitar skills on this song, you would understand why it has to be included here. I mean, it's just amazing. It's an amazing track. Everybody knows the lyrics, whether you listen to Pink Floyd on a regular basis or not.
Yeah.
They somehow know the lyrics. There was at least a movie, there was a part of the video, or anywhere online somebody heard the lyrics. Hey, teachers, leave those kids alone. Somehow everybody heard about it, and that's why I think it has to be included as my number 4. Plus it's a good transition from childhood's end to actually having some responsibilities even as a child. You're at school, you have responsibilities of homework.
Right. I mean,
it's an absolute masterpiece of a song.
Yeah, I mean, plus, this one is, this is this was very popular on the radio. So, like, I imagine most people are aware of this song anyway. So, you really can't go wrong with suggesting this because this one has gotten a lot of radio play. So, if you haven't heard it yet, you definitely should. It's a piece of music history.
Oh, yeah.
What do you have for number 5?
Number 5, the song that features my favorite lyrics. The band is just fantastic. That is really what I think. Oh, by the way, which one is Pink? Have a Cigar from Wish You Were Here, released in 1975.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
It's just such a good song, right? And we got to keep in mind that it was sung not by a Pink Floyd member. I actually don't remember who sang the song right now. But neither Gilmour nor Waters, who usually sing the songs, had the ability to sing it as well as this dude did. And I think he absolutely killed it. And that's why they had to include it on their original release.
Wait, someone else sang that song?
Yes. It was not like...
Wow. Okay. Damn.
Yeah, you can Google it afterwards. This is just to provoke your interest in it, right?
Yeah,
I don't know all
the
facts. I just know the interesting ones. But I think it's... With this song, specifically in this place on my playlist, it makes sense that now the band is being overtaken by corporate greed, right? The producer says that they love the band because the band is making that much money through them, but they don't even know who Pink is.
Yeah. Pink Floyd is not a fan of the corporate world. And this is definitely, at least for Wish You Were Here, this whole album is pretty anti-establishment, at least in the music sense. And then we can get into Animals later, but that's even more anti-establishment. So they're they have a lot to say and not too many nice things to say. And Have a Cigar is definitely a seed into their distaste for people that are higher up.
Yeah. I mean, couldn't have said it better myself, honestly. It's just what Pink Floyd does.
Yeah. I like this one a lot because this one's freaking groovy.
Oh, yeah. Very much so. But that being said, I'm just going to move on to my track number 6 because I am excited to hear your songs.
Sure. Yeah.
So right after Have a Cigar, I think should come the song Money. But it should be the version from Delicate Sound of Thunder, which is a live album that was released from their concert in 88. That's 1988. They performed in New York. I think this is what the original Money should be experienced like. Because the original song Money was on the album Dark Side of the Moon. But this performance is insane. Like, if the normal song is great, this is just orders of magnitude better than the original one, just in my opinion.
That's a pretty bold statement you're making, man.
I know, but it is without Waters, because at that point Waters left the band. But it's noteworthy to say that in one of the interviews, Nick Mason actually mentioned that in the 80s was the best sounding Pink Floyd because Gilmour perfected his guitar at that point.
Right.
And if you love Gilmour or don't even care about Gilmour, you would still enjoy this song, I think. So.
Yeah, I don't remember that one as much, but I'll have to check it out. I do enjoy the song Money from the studio album, so I imagine it'll only be a heightened experience to check out the live version. Unless it's the same one that you sent me. I couldn't tell if you sent multiple versions. You sent me a lot of Pink Floyd.
Oh well, I mean it's kind of your fault at the same time. You introduced me to the band, so yeah,
this is I shouldn't have introduced you to this, but it's fine.
No. I am very pleased that you did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you want to give me number 7 or was that your okay?
Number 7 is intermission, just to take a break from where the playlist was heading because it was heading into corporate greed and nobody likes that world. But I think the next song that has to be included is Echoes. That being said, for the first time listener of the song Echoes, I would probably put in the version from the Best of Pink Floyd. It's a compilation album released in 2001.
Okay.
It doesn't have that high-pitched bit for as long as it has.
Wait. Hold on a second. You crapped out for a second. Start from what version were you saying? You said Echoes from the Best of Pink Floyd?
Yes, Echoes from the Best of Pink Floyd. It's a compilation album released in 2001.
Yeah.
I think for the first time listener, it would be much easier to digest than the original song.
Yeah.
The original song has like this. It will be weird to listen to the original song the first time around because it has this segment in the middle, very high-pitched sounds. You don't know what's going on at all.
Do you remember when we were studying in the library and it was bleeding from my headphones and you're like, yeah. Jeremy, what the fuck are you listening to?
Dude, it feels like mid-song, Thanos just snapped, deconstructing itself, because that's what it sounds like.
Oh, God.
Yeah, but that being said, it's originally from album called Metal, which some people might consider as the beginning of them not using musical sounds and creating music. Like in Money, there's dropping, stuff like that. And this song also has Seamus, track named Seamus, which is actually a dog who was trained to howl every time it heard a guitar.
A dog that barked every time a guitar was strummed?
Not barked. It was howling. Like
wow.
in the song. Yeah, and they actually got the dog into the studio and recorded the song Seamus.
That must have been a very tired dog. Wow, okay.
They just trained the song that way. But this is where we take a break from my playlist. Let's hear from you, Jeremy.
So first of all, you took a deep dive. Those are mostly deep cuts. I mean, aside from Money and Another Brick in the Wall, those are pretty, like, you don't really stumble upon those. The way that I kind of formatted my list was I started off with, I felt, for those of you who vaguely know about Pink Floyd, I mean, obviously this is probably not the episode for you if you are a fan, but I would consider there's about 4 albums that were released next to each other. So starting with Dark Side of the Moon in 1973, right after that, 2 years later, they came out with Wish You Were Here. So those already are 2 iconic albums. Right after that, two years later, they released Animals, and then 2 years after that, they released The Wall. These are 4 extremely solid, iconic, classic rock albums. Anyone who's a classic rock fan knows these 4 albums, and it's definitely what I think the core of Pink Floyd is on a historical level. Once you get used to those, you kind of venture off into their other work because it really is exciting to listen to what they were doing prior to that. A favorite of mine, as I've discussed with you, Kirill, Adam Hart Mother is a fantastic album, but it's definitely not one that you would start off with if you were trying to figure out what Pink Floyd is, just to the layman. So for the first half of my list, I kind of took songs that I felt were already popular and were pretty easy on the ears just to kind of get a sense of who they are. My number 1 pick is easily one of my favorite songs by Pink Floyd, and it's pretty normie to say what this one is, but Wish You Were Here is a fantastic song. And I really think that it's one of the songs that you could start off with just to kind of get a sense of what the band is. It starts off with a beautiful guitar intro, and it follows the classic chord progression with the guitar, and then it goes into a very grand chorus. So that's why it gives you a flavor of Pink Floyd, but it doesn't overwhelm you too much. Number 2, I actually did put Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 because that's been on the radio. Everyone knows that song. It's just a fantastic classic rock song. You can't deny the beauty of that song. And the solo is magnificent, and the chorus is infectious. You really can't go wrong. That being said, another pick with the same idea is Money. So Money is another beautiful song. It's gotten a lot of radio play over the years. Most people probably already have heard it. If they didn't realize it was Pink Floyd, I'm sure they've heard it anyway. This one hits more of a funky, jazzy aspect of Pink Floyd. So another Brick in the Wall Part 2 and Wish You Were Here hit more of the classic rock, soft rock elements. Money comes from Dark Side of the Moon, which goes into more spacey, experimental, jazzy, funky blues. It kind of goes all over the place. But Money is not too difficult on the ears. It's really just a fun song to listen to. Oh man, I don't really know. I didn't put numbers on these, but I'm trying to figure out what I would put next. Number
So,
4, I would.
so like, I really like you started off with "Wish You Were Here." I think I would totally agree that it's a fantastic song to start from, especially. I am kind of a noob at guitar, and first song I ever played on my guitar was "Wish You Were Here." It's an immortal song. I think 20 years from now, people will still be learning that song on guitars and still be singing it at the fireplace, when they're camping.
Oh, without a doubt.
And I really, you put some really good thought into, not only going through popular songs, but taking the popular songs from well-known albums. I think that would certainly inspire some people to find out more about where did Pink Floyd come from.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely like a good appetizer into what Pink Floyd has to offer.
And amuse bouche.
Yeah, amuse bouche. But this is where it starts to get a little bit more experimental. So,
Hit it.
so for my number, what was I on? Oh, number 4. So number 4, this one is actually my favorite Pink Floyd song. So don't talk badly about it. I don't think you will. This comes from Dark Side of the Moon as well. Us and Them. This is a fantastic song. It has a beautiful linear build-up. It's got, a strong chorus with, like gospel singers. And it starts off with a very angelic riff. You just kind of feel like you're floating, and
Yes.
it's just, it really takes you away.
That song also has like a special place in my heart because I think that was the first song that we ever disagreed on the meaning of.
Right.
And I think it's amazing because you can interpret Pink Floyd songs the way you want it, right? The way there is no direct message in the song. So you interpret it a certain way, I did another way, which was, for me, it was more about war, and for you, it was more about the society. I mean, I think it's a phenomenal song to put on. And I definitely would not make fun of you or anybody who says that it's their favorite Pink Floyd song.
Oh yeah, no, it's fantastic. Now the reason I put this too, number one, I love the song, so I can't not put it there. Another thing is there's a lot of Pink Floyd fans, a lot of Pink Floyd songs that test your patience a little bit. Some of the songs get to be a little lengthy. To me, it's not really a problem because I'm usually listening to Pink Floyd and not expecting it to end in 4 to 5 minutes. This song is about, 7 minutes? Let me see. Us and Them. It's almost 8 minutes. So I really like this song, and I think it's a good way to kind of get people to acclimate to the style of Pink Floyd, where the songs are a little bit longer. They could go up to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and there's different movements within the songs, and it takes some getting used to, maybe, if that's not really what you listen to prior to this. But this is definitely, when you listen to this song and it's over, you're like, wow, that was 8 minutes. So I definitely recommend that one quite a bit. The next one, at my number 5, I put Comfortably Numb. This song slaps, my friend. This song comes off of The Wall, just like another brick in the wall. Now, Comfortably Numb is another beautiful song. And this is, so The Wall, I'd like to think, is probably their most classic rock albums. Like, if you were to compare it to, other bands like Led Zeppelin or Rush or something like that, there's a lot of, good jammy guitar solos and stuff like that spread throughout. The Wall kind of hits those same nuances but anyway, Comfortably Numb has probably one of the best guitar solos of all time, and I'm willing to debate anyone on that. David Gilmour knows how to bend the strings, my man. I don't know how he does it, but he knows how to bend it just the right way, and he's got the feeling of the guitar. He's able to make that Fender wail, and there's no song that displays that better than Comfortably Numb. So, if you're into, the guitar solo stuff, this is definitely one to start off with. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Honestly, I think the product, like the album The Wall, was it came from a time where a band was arguing with each other so much that they actually split after the album. But I think this whole tension between the bandmates and how unapologetic was Waters towards Gilmour. I think Gilmour just created something so good to shut Waters up, and he created this Comfortably Numb, because it shuts anybody up. I think Gilmour can play the perfect sound at the perfect time and create the perfect atmosphere for the song.
Yeah.
And that's like the extent of his skills are shown on the song.
Yeah.
Comfortably Numb. It's an absolute masterpiece.
Yeah, I actually just underlined it in my notepad because I want to listen to it as soon as we're done recording, because I'm just like, I want to hear that solo again. It's great. It's a timeless track. And then I'll give you my number 6, and then we'll move on to the rest of your list. I'm sticking with Shine on You Crazy Diamond, parts 1 through 5. This one is good. I recommend listening to it after listening to the previous tracks I mentioned, because like I said, this is like a 12-minute song. It's important that you have the mindset to be patient. So, if you're looking for a song to be good within the next, 20 seconds, you're not going to get that, because this requires your ability to listen to the whole progress of the track. And ideally, I would say you should listen to Wish You Were Here from beginning to end. There are songs that are good by themselves. I do think Shine on You Crazy Diamond is good, but I think within the context of the whole album, it just elevates it even more. But, right now we're working on the Amuse-Bouche to Pink Floyd, and I'm going to stick with Shine on You Crazy Diamond. It starts off it feels very spiritual.
So how they created that sound, right?
Yeah, with the glass filled with water, right?
Yeah, they were working on an album for like 2 years that they wanted to call Household Objects. And they were creating sounds with like rubber bands and wine glasses, bring them up. You fill the wine glass at a certain level and it creates a different sound. But in any case, they abandoned the idea after 2 years, because they created 2 tracks, and one of them was what you hear in the beginning of Shine on You Crazy Diamond. That was the rubbing the wine glass, the rim of the wine glass.
Yeah.
Which again, it comes back to the theme of Pink Floyd using other sounds to create their music, which pops off in a lot of places. I mean, it pops off at Wish You Were Here, right? There is this static from the radio. There is, on Money, you have cashier register opening and closing.
Yeah.
And on
nothing.
Crazy Diamond, there is rubbing the rim of the wine glass. I mean,
there's nothing.
Their music.
Yeah, there's nothing that's off limits for them. So I do have to admire their ability to be that creative. All right, Kirill, why don't you kick us off with your back half?
All right, so back half is where things get a little bit ugly, is how I think of it, but it includes some, again, bangers, right? So I will start off the next part of my playlist from Pigs. Continuing on corporate greed, on hating on corporate greed. If you haven't seen their set for concerts for animals, I highly recommend it. The whole inflatable pillars and inflatable pigs flying around while Pink Floyd is just shredding on stage.
Yep. Their live stuff is monumental.
And especially with this song, it never feels to me like 12 minutes. It always feels to me like 3 minutes, and I want more.
Yeah. Some
may argue
they'll do it.
That's every song of Pink Floyd, but specifically with this song, I don't know. I just keep rewinding it, but I still hear only the first 3 minutes, and then it's just, where did the song go? Come on, guys. I think it just ends too short because I keep wanting more. But that being said, from there, we're going to jump from Wish You Were Here. I included a slightly different version than yours.
Okay.
And I put it down here. It's from the album called The Pulse, released in 1995. It's a live album of their performance in England.
Okay.
The reason that I include this specific song is to show how much of a following Pink Floyd built over the years. Because the year is 1995, and yet you can still hear people just singing the song. Like, you can hear the audience singing the song with the band, and I think it creates this beautiful atmospheric feeling when you're listening to the song. It's making you wish you were there. Right?
So clever.
But,
yeah.
I know, but just being told, like, this turns back from, like, corporate greed to them wanting to go back in time. The times where it was all about music, the times where they had Sid Barrett around to create some weird concepts like devils and gnomes and include them to the songs and have a guitar literally take off to space. I mean, come on.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one.
Next song, now, I think of it as, when the band hates corporate greed so much and they can't fight it anymore, they just descend into madness. And for me, that song is In the Flesh from The Wall, 1979.
Ooh.
Like, In the Flesh without... so there are two songs, right? There's In the Flesh
and then
with
there's In the
question
Flesh?
mark, and there's the In the Flesh without the question mark. We're talking about the song that's on the... It's technically on the second CD of the vinyl, on the second vinyl, but it's on the... It's basically without the question mark. That song, to me, is like a man's descent into madness, right? Because it has, like, this war visuals, a lot of symbolism, like Nazi Germany, and I think that's where Roger Waters kind of kicked off the thematic of how much it hit him that his father died in World War I, and later he started creating more songs based around war. So the next two songs that I included also are based around the theme of war. So the next song I want to go with, The Dogs of War. Now, this is from 1987. Waters was out of the picture, but this song is so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It proves that even without Waters, Pink Floyd sound can exist.
Yeah. Yeah, so this one comes from 1987's A Momentary Lapse of Reason. So this is an album that took me a while to really appreciate, mostly because I just didn't really look at it and say, oh, I'm going to listen to this. I definitely ignored it for a long time. But I remember, I think the two of us both listened to it around the same time, and we're like, yo, this is really good.
Yeah, I mean, when the sax kicks on that song, you're just... it's amazing. You know, like chills down the spine every time I listen to it.
Yeah.
And I think this song is sometimes overlooked because what was left at that point, nobody thinks much of the band. But, you know, as I told you before, to record Momentary Lapse of Reason, like Gilmour, Wright, and Nick Mason, they trapped themselves on Wright's boat and they just recorded the album on the yacht. They were they were so big that the BBC crews were trying to send divers and see the recording or, you know, record a part of the song that they recorded, but they couldn't because it's just such a long process. It was just such a long process for them to release this album that nobody knew what it's going to be. And I think this album deserves a recognition. And I would definitely like the first-time listener to pay some attention to Momentary Lapse of Reason as much as they pay to more popular Pink Floyd albums.
Would you say that you could rename it Momentary Slaps of Reason?
Oh.
Well. I hate myself for that one. But
oh, that was good. I really appreciate that one.
Oh, man. All right. What slot are you at now, Kirill?
So this is my second to last song. And I think this is, you know, for the listener to wind down a little bit, just listen to the song called The Gunner's Dream from the Final Cut. Again, based a lot around war. It has beautiful lyrics. It's not a very heavy song. It's not a very guitar heavy song. It's a more lyric heavy song. It was originally on the Wall album, but then they took it off because the Wall was just this, you know, sort of vinyl album, and nobody wanted to release that.
Right.
So they cut it off, but then they released the tracks afterwards. That being said, I think this song at least deserves a listen. Plus, it's going to kind of chill you down a little bit after The Dogs of War. That's a pretty intense song. And we're going to end it with a banger.
Oh, boy.
All right, I think...
All right, we'll do a drum roll.
I think by the time the listener comes to this part, they're ready for a longer Pink Floyd song.
Longer than Echoes?
Mother.
Ooh. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good choice.
I know. I said I know to you complimenting me. I'm such an asshole.
You are, but that's why I love you.
Yeah, I love you too, man. But I think anybody listening to Pink Floyd has to realize that it's not the end of the sound that is Pink Floyd. And this track was actually not finished. As I told you before, they would experiment with tracks while they were performing live. So this track was like coming along while they were performing live in different places, but they never could finish it, and they just slapped it on the album, and everybody still loved it.
So you mean those 22 minutes are unfinished?
Yes, those almost 24 minutes.
Oh, yeah, 24 minutes, yeah.
Are unfinished, but I think it's for a good reason, because I think you can never say what Gilmour seems to always want to say, that this is the end, this is the last album, just because they released The Endless River, which nobody paid attention to, but it was more of an homage to Rick Wright, who died in early 2000s, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to Gilmour, he said after releasing that album, this is the end. And to that, Nick Mason replied, but you never know. And to me, I think this is a song that symbolizes that. You never know if it's the end. I truly hope that a band with as much impact as this one is going to emerge sometime in 2030s, and I'm going to be there with my gray beard just listening to them. Or 2040s. I don't want to have a gray beard by 2030s. That's a little bit pathetic.
Yeah, you gonna keep the beard?
Oh, well, N95s are not fitted for beards, so probably not.
Yeah, fair enough.
that's the end of the playlist.
Damn. Well, since we are at Adam Hartmother, I do want to add one thing. If anyone is a fan of ASMR, definitely check out their final track on that called Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast. It's a journey. It's definitely different from their other work. It literally just sounds like someone is making breakfast. It's, sometimes people need that. When I listened to it, I was really glad that I sat through the whole 13 minutes. It's not for everyone. It's definitely
I think
not.
it's an amazing track.
It's not another brick in the wall. There's no sick guitar solos, but if you want to hear a guy, take out toast and compliment marmalade, this is for you. This is for you. There's something for everyone with Pink Floyd. So, but Kirill, thank you. You put a lot of thought into this because you not only went, you didn't only reason with the way it sounds, but also just kind of the context within the songs, which adds a level of appreciation for each track. I definitely
My
didn't
pleasure,
do
my
that.
man.
When I was looking up songs when I was sharing them with you, I really just kind of went with what would people appreciate listening to. But you went into like here is a tour of Pink Floyd and the history behind it, and that's definitely something that a lot of people would love to go into. I'm sure my dad would love it too.
Chief.
Yeah, Chief. Shout out to Chief. But because like he's definitely familiar with a lot of the core four albums that I was mentioning before. But I don't really think he's paid attention much to some of the other albums. So I'm gonna send him this list and excuse me, and hopefully he'll find some new appreciation for it.
I truly hope he finds the appreciation for Money from Delicate Sound of Thunder, because again, that song is such a masterpiece. It's amazing. I mean, I have no words, nothing else to say, but it's just a masterpiece. You have to listen to it.
That's true. One phenomenon that I'll touch on before we go is that the beauty of Pink Floyd is that that sounds pretentious, but one of the things I find appealing about Pink Floyd is now, for those of you who are listening to my conversation with my friend Dylan about Led Zeppelin, I was talking about how I kind of go through a cycle with these classic rock bands. Like for Led Zeppelin, every few years I'll kind of go on a binge and listen to everything that they've done. And then, there will be times where I don't really listen to it. This is kind of the same concept for Pink Floyd. I don't really listen to Pink Floyd all the time, but, every couple of years, something will happen in my head, and all I can listen to is Pink Floyd. Just all these random albums. The Wall, Dark Side of the Moon, all these random stuff. Adam Hartmother is my current favorite. I do really enjoy that one quite a bit. Now that the summer is approaching, this is definitely a song that I feel has the warmth of the sun as opposed to the darkness of The Wall. Like The Wall is definitely not a summer. They're not summer hits.
It's more of April showers, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely something to play in the rain, in darkness. I mean, those are very mature, difficult themes. A lot of drug addiction, the absence of a father. I mean, it covers a lot of difficult stuff. Adam Hartmother, you got a cow as the cover on a field. Like, it's very serene. There's a guy eating breakfast. There's some horn sections. There's really something that makes you welcome the sunlight. So that's what I'm currently listening to. But my point being is that you'll probably cycle through favorite albums. I don't think you'll ever have a concrete favorite. I might be wrong. I don't think I would ever be able to say I definitely have a number one favorite album. It always is going to change. But with that being said, how do you feel about that? Do you have like a favorite, or do you think you kind of cycle depending on do you kind of go through phases?
Honestly, I do have a favorite album, and it is The Wall.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I just think that when they recorded The Wall, it's the tension among the bandmates is what made the album what it is. It's
That's
like
fair.
nobody wanted to put effort, but everybody put so much effort in it at the same time that they wanted to go out with a bang. And I think at that moment when they were recording it, nobody knew how big it was going to become. Like, Waters just had this visual that he's going to create an album and he's going to create a movie and there's going to be a show with a lot of blow-up dolls, right? Blow-up figurines from the album, like the teacher, the mother, etc.
Right.
I just think it's a look into what Pink Floyd is. You have Waters' issues with how his dad passed away in the war, right? Like, somebody put something personal in the album. Then I think you have Gilmour. At that point, he basically perfected his guitar, and as you said, he dropped this solo in Comfortably Numb, which, in my opinion, it's gonna be so difficult to top in the same genre.
I mean, it's safe to say that this is a piece of history. Yes. I mean, no one can deny how important this album was for classic rock and Pink Floyd as a band. It really set the tone for a lot. Not too many people can pull off a double album. I've seen it tried from other bands, and it doesn't hit the same. This has a story. So you're not just releasing a bunch of songs and saying, "Oh, we have double the songs." This is a musical journey, and if you do have the time, I do recommend sitting down and listening to it from beginning to end because you'll appreciate the songs more within the context. So my friend Dylan always makes the joke. I don't know if he came up with it, but he always says putting Pink Floyd on shuffle is a crime.
Oh yeah, it is.
You can't. Yeah, you can't, because all these are meant to be played in an order because they all have a theme. They all have one song leads into another, and that's applicable for most of the albums that they have. So never put these on shuffle because otherwise it wouldn't make sense when you listen to it.
Yeah, I also wanted to add something else regarding The Wall. Now, when I talk about there's tension among the bandmates, that wasn't the only factor, right? You had the times were changing. People started listening to more progressive bands. There were more punk rock. Like, Pink Floyd was at that moment what was considered, from what I've read, like from Nick Mason's biography, he said that they were considered in the late 70s a dinosaur rock band. And I think when they put out Pink Floyd, they proved themselves to be immortal.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I just think this whole pressure from their audience, pressure from the time, just created this beautiful album that we know as The Wall right now. And that's why I hope it's gonna remain my number one Pink Floyd album.
Hey, it's okay if it's not. Everyone changes.
I think if I keep listening to Pink Floyd, and I might change my mind, but for now, it is my number one album.
That's good. Well, with that, I think we should probably wrap it up. We've been talking for a good hour and 15 minutes about this stuff.
It's never enough.
I know. Yeah, we could always talk more about this, and I love it. I definitely have some ideas of other starter kit playlists we could do for other bands, particularly Sun Kill Moon, because you're the only person that I know of my friends that I showed songs of his. You're the only one who was like, "Yo, this is really good." So we'll need to work. We'll work together to curate the perfect intro to Sun Kill Moon playlist, and we'll have to share with our listeners.
It will be my pleasure, my man.
Hell yeah. We'll have to release it on August 3rd.
Oh.
Or we could do it a little bit sooner because I do have a lot to say about that. But that being said, Kirill, my man, it's always good to have you come in and talk. Whether you're talking with me in person, in the car, or over the phone, I love talking about music with you. I know we were talking about this before, but I know things are a little crazy right now. And on behalf of everyone who's not an essential worker, thank you for doing what you do. Kirill's a fantastic paramedic, and he's studying to be a nurse, which I think is his current plan. And you're a fantastic guy, and you also have a fantastic taste in music. So you're a unique person, and once again, thank you, and thank you for coming in to talk with me.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
All right, bruh. I love you. We're gonna end it now.
All right, love you.
All right,
Bye.
You want to say goodbye to the fans?
Goodbye, the fans.
Okay, perfect.
keep listening to Waxonomy.
Good. Yeah, you gotta put in a sponsor for myself at the end of the podcast.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be Rage Legends.
All right. All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.
All right, bye. All right, that's a wrap, everyone. Have a good one.